There are some novels that have actually inspired real-life murders.
Well, now give us an example.
Well, the easiest example to provide is probably everybody of our generation read The Catcher in the Rye. And The Catcher in the Rye has been responsible for at least 3 murders and one assassination attempt on President Reagan.
I can't remember who was the Reagan gunman. I can't remember who that was.
Mark Hinckley.
Okay, Hinckley. And then Chapman was the one who shot Lennon.
Mark Chapman.
He was as well, I think.
So Mark Chapman shoots John Lennon outside the Dakota Buildings in New York in December 1980. And he puts 5 bullets in his back and could easily have run away. Chapman doesn't run away, but stands waiting to be arrested, takes from his coat a copy of The Catcher in the Rye and reads that book until he's arrested. And in that copy of the book, on the inside front cover, it says, "To Holden Caulfield, from Holden Caulfield." Holden Caulfield is a protagonist in the novel. This is my statement.
Wow. Okay, there's one called the Turner Diaries, which I must admit I haven't heard of. Tell us about that.
Turner Diaries, published in 1978 by a man called William Luther Pierce. He was a neo-Nazi. He wrote under a pseudonym, Andrew MacDonald. He was obsessed with Scotland. And the Turner Diaries is effectively about a white right-wing overthrow of the federal government because the neo-Nazis believed that the federal government had been taken over by Jewish people, by black people, and were going to curb gun rights. And so the Turner Diaries is a call to arms. And in fact, that book has inspired the most murders worldwide. Think of Anders Behring Breivik.
Oh, he
Norway.
was he? Yeah.
He was inspired by it.
What was he, 80 people or something?
77.
77. It's all young people. Do you remember that? It was terrible. Yeah.
And so quite apart from Breivik, you will remember the Oklahoma bomber, Timothy McVeigh. He was also inspired by the Turner Diaries. And the British example, of course, is David Copeland, the Brixton bomber, who cites the Turner Diaries as the reason why he did what he did.
Gosh, that's amazing. So the producer Nat was saying, have you got any book? And I'm going to check with you on this, David, because I thought Silence of the Lambs is an issue here, because we had a guy, I don't know if you can see the cover, we had a guy in this country who styled himself the crossbow cannibal.
He did, Stephen Griffiths.
Okay, so you know about it. So what he wanted to do was shoot people with crossbows and then eat them. I think he only did one person. I can't remember.
No, he murdered 3 women, and he could have murdered at least. I think there are a number of cold cases that are.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Attached to
but he was caught quite quickly. But I remember when he was asked his name in court, he said the crossbow cannibal. But what do you know about that guy?
Well, there were some rumours that he was inspired by the Silence of the Lambs. That's not really what inspired him to behave in that way. Stephen Griffiths actually went to Wakefield Grammar School, which is the same school that John George Haigh, the acid bath murderer, went to. And so there was a serial killer in the school that he attends. And that seems to have set him on a particular road. He had mental health problems. He was arrested very early as a teenager. But the thing that's most chilling for me, Jeremy, is that later, when everything emerges about Stephen Griffiths, I realised he'd been reviewing my books online. He gave me 4 out of 5 stars for my current book at that time, which was very kind of him, I felt. But the more worrying point is that Stephen Griffiths was a PhD student in criminology. Yeah. And so the whole idea of why people want to study this kind of world becomes rather chilling when you realise
Well, it means that if you are a criminologist, you have got a much higher likelihood of being a serial killer. That's a statistical fact now.
And at the moment, remember, there's going to be that case in the United States of the 4 students who were murdered in Moscow in Idaho. Yeah. And those 4 students, it is alleged, were murdered by a particular Brian Kohlberger. Brian Kohlberger was actually studying criminology.
I saw that. I thought of you when I saw that case. I thought it's not looking good for the profession of criminology. Well, listen, it's a fascinating tour. It's obviously going to be amazing. David and Marcel's Killer Books Tour starts on the 10th of September. If you love true crime, as you can tell I do, do go and see them. Tickets available at this website, professordavidwilson.co.uk.
Thank you so much.
Great.